My name is Casey Howard. I grew up in Utah. I joined the Army when I was 18. Moved out here to Kentucky. I was stationed at the 101st Airborne Division at Fort Campbell, and got a beautiful wife, Christina, and my son, Dalen, 17, and my daughter, McKenna, she's 13. My little girl, McKenna, she was a level 5 gymnast, muscle bound. Just absolute strong little girl. You would never, ever think that, that anything is ever wrong with her. When she was 10, December of 2013, she collapsed at school. So obviously, we were called, so we took her to the hospital. We took her down to Cosair, and they looked more neurologically. They were looking at her head because she passed out. They sent us home. They said, just follow up with your primary care doctor. Went that weekend, that was all that kind of Thursday, so Friday, Saturday, Sunday, she's just going downhill. We took her to the doctor's office on Monday morning, and they drew labs, and they called me on my route, and they said, Mr. Howard, you need to take your daughter to the hospital immediately. She's bleeding internally. We went to Lexington, to the UK Medical Center there, the Children's Hospital there, and went down and looked for the internal bleeding, and they found she had esophageal varices, which are like a vein in her esophagus that bulges out, and then they burst and they start bleeding. And I cried all the way home from Lexington. I said, God, if you're real, please heal my daughter. I never grew up in the church, had no clue. In fact, strangely, 2 months prior to my daughter collapsing, I'd got this overwhelming feeling we need to take our kids to church. My walk with Jesus began. He was obviously drawing me prior to that, I think, and using my daughter's illness, I got to baptize McKenna. I got to baptize my son. My wife got baptized. It's transformed our whole family. But my daughter's challenges didn't stop there. That wasn't okay, well, everything's good. So they fixed the initial problem of the varices. They banded them, did those surgeries, and then they told us, the doctor said, we need to find a doctor to perform a big shunt surgery for the underlying problem. Well, this 6-hour surgery ended up lasting 13. She lost all her blood and then some. And we didn't really realize until later how close she was to not even making it through the surgery. We get released from there to come home, and almost immediately her stomach starts blowing up real big. And it just seemed like every time we turned around, it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. She went from a muscle-bound gymnast to a 50-pound bag of skin and bones. So we just prayed and prayed and prayed, and God kind of led us to a lymphatic specialist in Philadelphia, is Dr. Dory. He put a drain in her stomach to where she was draining 2 to 3 liters of fluid out of her stomach a day. And it got to the point where they'd done this surgery 3 times to try to stop this leak, and they couldn't get it to stop. He sat us down, and Christina and I, and he told us, he said, we're gonna have to start thinking about comfort measures. He was gonna send us home on hospice. But he said, okay, he goes, I'm gonna do the surgery one last time. We're like, wow, after all this, I'm like, God, why? Why? I said, Doc, what are the chances of what you did working? And he looked at me and he said, if it worked, God was with us. Well, it immediately worked. She got out of that surgery that day. Within 2 hours, the leak had stopped. It went from 2 to 3 liters of fluid to nothing like that. It just, his hand in everything is so evident, and I'm sure a lot of people can say the same thing. A lot of Christians can say the same thing. It's okay, I can see God's hand in this, but I can't stress it enough that He is the God of miracles. He's the God of transformation. He's the God of everything. You just, invite Him in. Invite Him into your life. It transforms everything in your life. But when you give God everything and how He works, when you're an empty vessel and he can actually, you've given him everything, is absolutely amazing, because God's plan is so awesome,